So let's talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, two highly anticipated games that have been met with sort of a mixed reception due to the games just not running too well on the Switch. Even a bit of controversy, you could say. You've got people on one side just who love the games and who are willing to completely look past its shortcomings, and then on the opposite side of the spectrum you've got people who are just saying this is unacceptable, I want my money back, y'all need to stop buying games from Nintendo because this is just not okay. And then you got the rest of us who fall somewhere in the middle, who generally think, you know, this is a flawed but good game. And that's the camp I fall into personally. But I wanted to share my opinions and my feelings on the games with you after having just finished Violet. It took me about 30 hours and I saw the credits roll and then found out there's even more stuff to do, and I just decided to give it a rest at that point. But here are my thoughts. Bottom line is, I think if you are a fan of Pokemon, you're just gonna like this game. You're gonna be willing to look past its flaws and you're gonna have a good time. But not everybody will feel the same way, and my daughter's opinion of the game is a little bit different than mine. You might be surprised. But for me, I'm a longtime Pokemon fan since Generation 1, since I was a little kid playing Blue and Yellow on the Game Boy. Oh man, I spent so many hours on those games. They were a huge part of my childhood, just Pokemon in general, not even just the game. It was the games, it was the card game, it was the anime. I played Gen 2, Gen 3, and then after a while I just kind of fell off the bandwagon for a while as I got a little bit older. Didn't have all the systems or all the games, but over the past several years, now my daughter has become a huge Pokemon fan. We played all the Switch games together, the Let's Go games, Arceus, Sword and Shield, the Pearl and Diamond remakes. There's a ton of games, ton of Pokemon games now on the Switch. If you include Mystery Dungeon and Snap, I think we counted like 11 games or something like that. It's crazy, my daughter has them all. And so yeah, she was super hyped for these games to come out, and I promised I'd get them for her. I stood in line at Target before they opened on opening day to get that limited edition figure for free, and that's a story of its own, but I won't waste your time. Anyway, she was super hyped for these games. I was excited as well, but how did they live up to our expectations? Well, I had heard some things the day before they came out about the technical issues, so I was kind of expecting that. Even so, it was worse than I thought, I will say that much. Just looking around at buildings, you'll see a bunch of weird flickering going on with the lighting and textures on the buildings. It looks really bad. And another issue is the draw distance. You'll have constant pop-in. You'll see random bushes and shrubs and things just kind of randomly pop into view as you're not far at all away from them. The draw distance is terrible, and it could be a little challenging when sometimes these are wild Pokemon to just suddenly pop in. And I don't know if that's always pop-in or if it's just how the Pokemon spawn in front of you. It might be a little bit of both, but it can be annoying sometimes, you know. I'm not gonna lie. Frame rate too. Frame rate is not always smooth. There's this one point in the game where you're in this classroom. It's not even part of the open world environment. There's not much to render, but there's, you know, a certain amount of NPCs on the screen. A bunch of kids sitting at their desks, kind of moving around, you know, kicking their feet, moving their heads back and forth, but they're moving like really weird, like jumping through frames. Again, in that small closed off environment, it seems like there shouldn't be any of those frame rate issues happening there, right? NPCs who are a little bit far away from you too, they'll start frame skipping like crazy, and there's just a lot of graphical bugs and performance issues in these games. Now personally, I was willing to look past this. It's kind of a little disappointing, a little funny, but it is what it is, you know. I didn't let it bother me too much, and I will say, I was playing the game on a Switch Lite, and so on this little screen of the Switch Lite, it doesn't look that bad. It's not that noticeable. I mean, the pop-in stuff is very noticeable, but I wasn't seeing those weird glitchy effects on the buildings and things like that. I saw a lot of stuff, but it wasn't nearly as bad as playing it on the TV in docked mode. I was watching my daughter play on her Switch, docked to the TV, and yeah, there are some more glaring issues that are much more noticeable on a big screen. For me, I was able to look past it, and my daughter too, she continued to play the game but she was complaining about those issues pretty much the whole time, like, this is so bad, like, this looks terrible, like, why didn't they just go back to the old art style or something? This game looks awful, look at these textures, look at this glitch here. So I think she was not really having it. It was a huge disappointment for her, it seems, more so than for myself, because yeah, graphics are important, but I think the gameplay is much more important, in my opinion. I don't care what a game looks like necessarily, as long as it does the job. Is it fun? At the end of the day, we're just trying to have fun here. So yeah, for me, the core game is still fun, and the issues at hand are not enough to ruin the experience. I'm not going to be asking for my money back. I'm not telling people not to buy it. I think if you like these games, if you like Pokemon, then go ahead and pick these up. You're going to enjoy them. Speaking of gameplay, this is a big game. It took me 30 hours. That's with a little bit of grinding and exploring and this and that. But yeah, it's a game, it's an open world game. Similar to Arceus, but it's sort of a combination of Arceus and Sword and Shield, taking sort of the best of both worlds, so to speak. It feels like a very core, traditional Pokemon game. Only with the exception that you can pretty much go anywhere you want, at any time, do things in whatever order you want, which can be a little bit confusing as to, okay, which gyms should I go to first, because I don't know what's going to be too high level for me or what's not, what's the best order to do this and that, but you figure it out, and having that freedom is really nice, especially when you level up your Pokemon that you get to ride around on. You have this Pokemon, depending if you play Violet or Scarlet, they're kind of like a motorcycle of a Pokemon. It's really fun to ride around on them and just explore the world, especially as you teach them new abilities. So first of all, they start out just pretty basic. You can ride around on them, you can jump, but throughout the course of the game, they gain more abilities like to climb up mountains and to glide through the air and to swim through water. So you get just so much more freedom later on in the game as to how you explore. You can get it from one side of the map to the next very quickly, also thanks to fast traveling to certain points and then just running and gliding your way to wherever you're trying to go. It's quite fun just to run around and explore on the map once you've gotten all those abilities. And you get those abilities by taking on these Titan quests. There are these certain quests where you battle these Titan Pokemon, these giant, unusually giant Pokemon, and it plays a big part of the story. There are 3 different storylines also, and you can approach these storylines however you want, in any order. You can do them all at the same time. You can go battle a gym, then battle a Titan, then go battle Team Star, who is kind of like this generation's Team Rocket, only less nefarious. But you can switch it up, or you can just tackle one storyline at a time. I kind of mixed everything up, trying to find those things that were at appropriate levels for my team. But I highly recommend doing as many of the Titan quests early on as you can, because it will make the rest of your time in the game that much easier and more enjoyable when you can just get around the map more quickly and easily. So you got the Titan quest, you got the Team Star quests like I mentioned, plus the traditional go battle all the gym leaders and become the Pokemon champion, take on the Elite Four, that kind of thing. So between all of those, and then there's some other story bits that come on after you've completed all those quests, then finally the credits roll, again about 30 hours in for me. The credits rolled, and then there was still more stuff to do endgame, so there's quite a bit to do here, and honestly, it feels like a Pokemon game, a current gen Pokemon game, not a next gen Pokemon game, because of all the issues, and because, you know, Game Freak has just been kind of behind the times in some ways. I hate to say it, because I do love the company and I love these games, but, you know, there's still no voice acting after all this time. You'd think, I mean, voice acting has been a thing for decades now in video games. Even these long RPGs, it's rare for a game not to be fully voice acted. Especially something as big as one of the biggest franchises in the world, right? Pokemon. They finally let you customize your own character. I was saying in, I think the last generation Pokemon games, I was like, man, you still can't customize a character. They're pretty behind the times here. Well, now you can. They give you more options to customize the look of your character, and plus you can buy more clothing and accessories and things like that, which we have seen in other recent games, but there's some deeper customization here, and yeah, they went for something more ambitious. This is a more ambitious Pokemon game than maybe anything we've seen before. It's just the scale of it, the open world aspect. There's still a ton of Pokemon, a ton of new cool ones, and returning favorites as you'd expect. Overall, like I say, if you like Pokemon games, then I think you'll like this too. You just have to be a little bit forgiving or a little bit accepting of its weaknesses, you know? It's not a perfect game. I think the Metacritic is sitting around like 74% or something. I'll put it up on the screen because I don't remember. But I think that's pretty fair, and I'm not one to usually give number scores to game reviews on this channel, but I think they're very good games. They're also very flawed games, but definitely still worth picking up. You know, there aren't any game-breaking bugs. They're just visual annoyances, and even my daughter, like I was saying, she complains about it as she's playing it, but she keeps playing it. We kept having these discussions. She's like, I hate this game. I'm like, okay, don't play it. She's like, no. So obviously it's worth playing, even though it's got issues, and hopefully, I know there has been a patch already that didn't seem to do very much, but I'm hoping they'll continue to patch these games and hopefully find some ways to better optimize them, make them run better. I don't know how much they can do. I'm not really going to expect too much in that regard, but it's a possibility. That's how it is today, you know? You don't buy a cartridge and then that's what you get forever. No, you buy a cartridge and then the game's going to keep on evolving. There's going to be DLC probably and patches and all sorts of stuff. Who knows? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, at the end of the day, good games. Solid games, flawed games, but a good time, man. I enjoyed my 30 hours, and maybe I'll come back to do more of the endgame stuff. I don't know. I don't have all the time in the world, so that's that. You know what? We didn't even try, and I didn't even talk about the multiplayer modes. The multiplayer modes are supposed to be super good, and I didn't find out about them at first, or else I would have joined my daughter's game right away. But yeah, I guess you can just seamlessly jump into your friend's game and play together, kind of like an MMO or something, just co-op it. And I haven't tried it myself, but I think that's very cool. That's, you know, they've dabbled in multiplayer features before, but nothing as big and streamlined as this, it seems. So I am very curious to see where this goes in the future. Also, what are your opinions of Scarlet and Violet? Let me know in the comments. And I just thank you for watching today. That's all I gotta say. So take care, and I'll see you next time.